The rain wasn't real. It fell like tiny sparks, bright purple droplets flickering as they touched the glass dome above. The Earth Alliance's outpost on planet Varela 7. The air was thick with tension. The humans had just signed a fragile peace treaty with the Zarelians, a proud, sharp-tongued race with high ego and even higher tempers. Sergeant Kyle Merrick stood guard near the entrance bay, gripping his shock baton, face unreadable. He had been through 4 off-world campaigns, 2 invasions, and 1 near-death experience with a plasma eel. None of that had prepared him for today's strange guest, Lieutenant Azura of the Zarelian Empire. She was tall, slim, covered in silver armor that shimmered with pulsing veins of alien light. Her face was flawless, almond eyes glowing violet, cheekbones sharp, lips curled with pride. And she was annoying. "You flinch like prey," she said as she paced around Kyle in circles, tail flicking slowly behind her like a predator waiting for weakness. "Are all humans this twitchy, or just the low-ranking ones?" Kyle's jaw twitched. He didn't speak. He was under strict orders. No fighting with the ambassador's daughter. Azura leaned in closer, her face almost touching his. "I bet you've never fought someone who didn't run from you. Go and show me how strong you really are." Kyle took a deep breath. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a professional, trained to avoid escalation, but Azura was pushing every button. She jabbed him in the shoulder, then again. Poke. 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 He looked down at the finger pressing into his chest plate and then slowly raised his eyes. She smiled. "What's wrong, human? Afraid of a girl?" A few guards on the other side of the room watched with nervous glances. No one stepped in. Azura poked again. "Say something." Kyle's patience cracked. He grabbed her wrist with lightning speed, firm but controlled. "You done?" She didn't pull back. Instead, she tilted her head and narrowed her eyes. "Or..." "What?" His voice dropped, calm, quiet, deadly serious. "Or you'll find out that humans don't always back down." That's when she smiled wider, like she wanted this. She leaned forward even more, and then, without warning, poke. That was the last poke. Before anyone could blink, Kyle stepped forward and bit her, not hard. Not to draw blood, but enough to make her freeze. On her shoulder through the light fabric of her alien armor. Just long enough to get his point across. The entire room went silent. Azura stood stiff, stunned, blinking slowly as if trying to process what just happened. Her soldiers moved forward, but she lifted one hand to stop them. Her face was unreadable. Then she touched the bitten spot on her shoulder and looked at her fingers like they were sacred. And for the first time since arriving, she was quiet. Kyle expected yelling. He expected a slap or maybe even a declaration of war. Instead, Azura stepped back and started laughing. It wasn't a mocking laugh. It was shocked, curious, even excited. "I didn't think you had it in you," she said. "Maybe there is more to humans than cowardice and rules." Kyle didn't respond. He just returned to his guard stance, silent as ever. But his pulse was racing. Azura turned to her soldiers. "We're done here, for now." And just like that, she walked out of the room, her tail swaying like a cat who just found a mouse worth playing with. Hours later, Commander Rivas stormed into Kyle's quarters. "You bit her?" Kyle stood, stiff. "She provoked me, sir," repeatedly. "She's the daughter of the Zarelian High Warlord. You don't bite alien royalty." Kyle didn't respond. Commander Rivas sighed and lowered his voice. "Look, this could have turned into a diplomatic disaster. But it didn't. In fact..." He paused. "She requested you personally for her escort detail tomorrow." Kyle blinked. "What?" She said, and I quote, "The human with teeth deserves my attention. I don't know what game she's playing, but you're stuck in it now." Kyle leaned back. "Fantastic." Later that night, Azura sat alone in her quarters studying a projection of Earth species history. Her finger hovered over a spinning image of a wolf. She bit back. She whispered, smiling. Finally, something interesting. And in her heart deep where even her pride couldn't hide it, she felt something she had never felt before. Respect. But also something stranger. Something more dangerous. Something that would change everything. Asterisk. The morning sky above Varela 7 shimmered with soft blue mist. Strange birds flew past the horizon with metallic wings, crying out in high-pitched echoes. Inside the Earth Alliance base, Kyle Merrick stood in full gear, ready for duty, but today's assignment was not normal. He was to escort Lieutenant Azura, the arrogant alien girl he bit last night. Kyle wasn't nervous, but he was alert. His instinct told him this wasn't just a simple escort mission. Azura had requested him specifically. That didn't feel right. The security gate opened with a hiss. Azura entered the hallway wearing a long, flowing Xerelian robe laced with gold lines and swirling dark purple patterns. Her hair was braided today, with a single glowing crystal hanging near her ear. She stopped in front of Kyle and stared into his eyes. "Good, you're here," she said. "Let's begin." Kyle kept his face calm. "Where are we going?" She raised an eyebrow. "Didn't your superiors tell you?" "They said you're visiting the sacred ruins. I'm to protect you." Azura smirked. "I don't need protection. But I do need to see if you're truly as bold as your bite." Kyle didn't answer. He just turned and walked beside her. An hour later, outside the city dome, they walked through a winding alien jungle. Massive black trees with glowing red veins stretched toward the sky. Strange vines swayed even when the wind was still. Azura moved with grace. She didn't speak for a while. But then, without looking at Kyle, she asked, "Why did you bite me?" Kyle paused, unsure how honest to be. "You poked me too many times." She laughed softly. "That's all?" Kyle looked ahead. "You wanted a reaction. You got one. Most males in my empire would never dare do such a thing to a highborn. I'm not from your empire. No, you're from a planet where biting is a sign of affection or dominance." Kyle didn't respond. Azura turned and faced him, stepping closer. "Which one was it?" He locked eyes with her. "You decide." A strange silence fell between them. Her gaze flickered, half challenge, half something else. Then she turned and kept walking. "Let's see if your bite is the only brave thing about you." They reached the ruins. Huge stones stood in a perfect circle, old, cracked, but humming softly with energy. Alien symbols carved into the surface glowed with blue light. "This place is older than both our species," Azura said quietly. "It's sacred. My ancestors believe this is where the stars first whispered to us." Kyle looked around, scanning for threats. "So why are we here?" Azura stepped into the center of the circle. "Because I want to show you something important." Suddenly, a noise echoed from the trees. Click, click, click. Kyle spun around, weapon drawn. Azura's eyes narrowed. "That's not local wildlife." Then they appeared. 3 figures stepped out from the shadows, slim, fast, armored in bone-like plating. Zulkran hunters, enemies of both Xerelians and humans. Ruthless, silent. Kyle stepped in front of Azura instantly. "Behind me." She didn't argue. One Zulkran hissed and lunged. Kyle dodged, struck back hard with his shock baton, sparks flying. Another tried to flank, but Kyle kicked low and knocked it down. Azura moved too fast as lightning. She grabbed a fallen spear and stabbed forward with perfect accuracy, catching one between the armor plates. Blood hissed into the air. Kyle swung again, breaking another's arm. "Go! Back to the trees!" "No!" she shouted. "We finish this together." For a moment, they fought side by side, alien and human. Smooth teamwork. No hesitation. When The last Zulkran fell, silence returned to the jungle. Kyle's arm was bleeding, but he didn't flinch. He looked at Azura. She was panting slightly, but smiling. "You protect well," she said, "but you fight even better." Kyle wiped the blood from his hand. "Are all your escort missions this exciting?" She stepped closer. "You risked your life for me." He nodded. "That's my job." She tilted her head. "No, that was more than duty. You fought like I mattered." Kyle stayed quiet. He didn't know what to say to that. Azara leaned in slowly. "Maybe, just maybe, I judged humans too quickly." Kyle's voice was low. "And maybe you like being bitten more than you admit." Her cheeks flushed a pale violet cerulean version of a blush. She stepped back, regaining her usual pride. "Come, we must return before more show up." Back at the base, later Commander Rivas met them at the gate. "Report?" "Zulkran." "Ambush," Kyle said. 3 hostiles, neutralized." Azura added, "Your soldier performed excellently." Commander Rivas looked suspicious but nodded. "Very well." As Azura walked away, she glanced back just once and then disappeared into the hallway. Kyle turned to Rivas. Commander whispered, "I don't know what's going on between you two, but whatever it is, keep it controlled." Kyle simply said, "Yes, sir." But deep inside, he felt it too. This wasn't just another alien encounter. Something had started. Something wild, something dangerous. And Azura wasn't done with him yet. The base was quiet, but Kyle couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the fight in the ruins, the way Azura moved beside him, the way she looked at him afterward, not as an enemy, not even as a soldier, but as someone different, someone who had proven himself. Then, just after midnight, Kyle received a message. "You are summoned to the Zerelian Honor Hall. Come alone." He didn't hesitate. Zerelian Sector, Honor Hall. The hall was massive, built with dark stone and glowing lines. Statues of fierce Zerelian warriors stood in rows, each with spears and sharp eyes. The air inside felt heavy with ancient pride. Kyle stepped through the center. Every Zerelian guard turned to look at him, but none stopped him. At the end of the hall, Azura stood waiting. She wore ceremonial armor, light, flexible, covered in flowing designs that shimmered like fire. Her eyes glowed even brighter than before. "You came," she said. "You summoned me," Kyle replied. She smiled faintly. "Then you understand what this means?" "I was told nothing. Just to come alone." Azura stepped forward slowly. Her voice softened. "Then let me explain. You challenged me publicly, in front of my soldiers. You showed dominance. You bit me." Kyle folded his arms. "You provoked me. Don't forget that part." "True," she nodded. "But still, by Zerelian law, your action was a challenge. A ritual has been triggered." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "Ritual? A warrior's test," she said. "You must face a trial of strength. If you win, I must acknowledge your status. If you fail, I will claim victory over you." Kyle smirked. "So this is your way of getting payback?" Azura shook her head. "No, this is our way of settling balance." The arena. Within minutes, Kyle was led to a large circular arena deep beneath the hall. Torches burned along the walls. Zerelian warriors watched from above in silence. Azura entered from the other side, holding 2 training staffs. She tossed one toward him. "No weapons, no armor, no killing, just truth." Kyle caught the staff and spun it once in his hand. "You sure you're ready to lose?" She grinned. "That's exactly what I was thinking." Then it began. Azura struck first, fast, sharp, elegant. Kyle blocked and countered, his movement steady and controlled. The two moved like wind and stone. She was swift and graceful. He was solid and powerful. The sound of wood clashing echoed. Through the arena, she tried to sweep his legs. He jumped. He faked a lunge. She blocked high, but he switched and hit low. She stumbled slightly. The crowd murmured. Azar growled, then smiled. Impressive. Kyle didn't reply. He moved in. Again, this time with a twist. His staff locked with hers and spun her weapon out of her hand. She fell to one knee. Silence. Kyle stepped back, lowered his weapon, and offered a hand. Azura looked at it, then looked up at him. Her pride burned in her eyes, but slowly she reached out and took his hand. He pulled her up. Cheers erupted from the crowd above. Azura didn't let go of his hand immediately. Instead, she held it just a second longer, then whispered, "You win." Kyle looked into her eyes. "It's not about winning. I just wanted you to stop poking me." She laughed, soft, real, and without ego this time. Later that night, Kyle was about to return to the human barracks when Azura stopped him in the hallway. "There's more." He turned. "More fighting?" "No," she said. "More truth." She stepped close again, closer than before. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Xerelians don't show respect through words. We test strength. We test spirit. You showed me both. And now I'm curious," she said. "I've never met someone who could face me and still show restraint. That takes real power." Kyle nodded. "You're not bad yourself for someone who leads with her tail." She smiled at that. "Come with me." Private chamber. Xerelian meditation room. It was dim, peaceful. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling like stars. A circular pad sat in the center of the room. Azura removed her gloves and motioned for Kyle to sit across from her. "What is this?" he asked. "Connection test," she said. "No touching. Just focus. Energy to energy. Breath to breath." He sat down. They both closed their eyes. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Slowly, something shifted. Kyle felt warmth, not physical, but deep. Emotional. A strange pulse moving between them. Then her voice reached into his mind. Though her lips did not move, "You're not what I expected." He opened his eyes. Azura was watching him, expression softer than he'd ever seen. "You said humans bite for dominance or affection," she said quietly. He nodded. "That's true." "Which one was it, really?" she whispered. Kyle looked directly at her. "Maybe it started as dominance," she waited. "But now I'm not so sure." Azura's eyes flickered like something deep inside had just lit up. She stood, turned to leave, but before exiting, she paused and said over her shoulder, "Then I guess you'll have to bite me again someday, just to be sure." And she was gone, leaving Kyle stunned and smiling. Asterisk. The days after the ritual were strangely quiet. Kyle returned to his regular patrol duties, but everything felt different. People whispered when he passed. Some humans gave curious looks. The Xerelians treated him with more respect. But what lingered most in his mind was Azura, her words, her look, that final sentence. "You'll have to bite me again someday, just to be sure." He kept replaying it. It didn't sound like a joke. It sounded like a challenge, or an invitation. A new mission arrives. Kyle was summoned to the Earth Alliance war room. Commander Riva stood next to a large holographic table, displaying a section of jungle outside the Xerelian dome. "We picked up movement here," Riva said. "Unauthorized. No beacon. Could be poachers. Could be Zulkrin." Kyle frowned. "What's the mission?" "You and a team will investigate. 3 humans, 2 Xerelians." He paused. "One of them is Azura." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "She volunteered?" "No," she insisted. "Jungle perimeter." That night, the 5-person team moved through thick vines and glowing mushrooms. The trees pulsed faint light, like breathing lungs. Kyle walked beside Azura. She wore her light battle gear again, tail swaying slightly behind her. She didn't speak at first. Then, still thinking about the ritual? Kyle smirked. You? Bring it up more than I do. I bring it up, she said, because it changed things. He glanced sideways. Between you and me? Between everyone and you, she replied. A human bit a Zarelian highborn and didn't die. That's not a small thing, Kyle chuckled. Is that pride I hear? Azura looked at him. No, that's interest. Suddenly a flash. A white flare exploded in the distance. The team dropped down behind thick roots. Azura gave hand signals. Kyle nodded. They split into two groups and moved closer. What they saw made Kyle freeze, a hidden base, but not ZUL single quotes KRN.humans. With black market tech, illegal armor. Smuggler marks. Kyle whispered, traitor units. They're stealing energy cores from the sacred ruins. Azura's eyes burned with anger. Desecration. She turned to him. We strike, quietly. The attack Kyle moved like a shadow, circling behind two smugglers near a glowing generator. He snapped one's neck silently, took down the second with a hard elbow strike. Azura leapt from above, landing like lightning and striking three enemies with her spear in seconds. Her movements were beautiful, deadly, and precise. Together, they disabled the small base in under 5 minutes, but then boom. A hidden mine exploded beneath Kyle. He was thrown across the field, hit a rock, and blacked out. A soft voice. Human. Wake up, Kyle blinked. Azura knelt beside him in a small cave. He was lying on soft moss, bandaged, his armor cracked. Her hands glowed with Zarelian healing light. Still breathing, she said. That's good, he groaned. What happened? You hit a mine. I pulled you out before the second one went off. Kyle looked around. Where are the others? Gone? Back for help. I stayed. He tried to sit up. You didn't have to. She pressed a hand gently to his chest. Yes, I did. Their eyes locked. No guards. No war. No audience. Just them. You saved me again, he said quietly. Azura nodded. And you saved me once already. We're even. He gave a weak smile. Not yet. She tilted her head. Then how will you repay me? Kyle took her hand. You already know. Azura didn't move away. Instead, she leaned forward slowly, until their foreheads touched. Their breath mixed. Kyle whispered, What happens now? Azura's voice was soft. Now we stop pretending we're enemies. Later that night, as Kyle rested, Azura stood at the cave entrance, watching the jungle, but she wasn't alone. A glowing red drone hovered, silently behind the trees. Unseen, watching. And far away, someone very powerful smiled coldly. Soon. The voice hissed, Let their bond grow, then we break it. Kyle sat near the cave wall, quietly adjusting the cracked part of his armor. His ribs ached, but he was alive and not alone. Azura was only a few feet away, crouched beside the glowing firestone she had activated for warmth. Her purple eyes flickered in the flame's light, calm but alert. They hadn't spoken much since that quiet moment when their foreheads touched. But now, the silence between them didn't feel cold. It felt connected. Like something had changed. Azura finally broke the silence. Does pain frighten you? Kyle looked at her. No, it reminds me I'm alive. She nodded slowly. Zarelians believe pain is the truth that can't be hidden. Kyle smirked. Then I must be very honest right now. That made her laugh. And for a moment, all tension was gone. But that moment didn't last. Back at the Earth Base commander, Riva stared at the holo recording with a frown. The red drone footage was disturbing. The camera had caught Kyle and Azura in the cave, together, too close. The voice on the call came from High Command. You see the problem, Commander? Rivas nodded. If this leaks, it could break the treaty. Keep them apart, quietly, without causing more sparks. Yes, sir. The screen shut off. Commander Rivas sighed. Of all the people to fall for an alien princess, it had to be Merrick. 2 days later, medical recovery Bay Kyle lay on a clean bed, wrapped in healing patches. Azura was nowhere in sight. The guard said she hadn't visited. He asked. Once, they said, she's been reassigned. Kyle's gut twisted. That wasn't right. He tried sending her a message. No reply. Then another. Still nothing. The next morning, he pushed himself out of bed and walked straight to the Zarelian embassy unit. The guard stopped him. Access denied. I just want to speak to Azura. She is not receiving human visitors. Kyle clenched his jaw. Tell her I came. She knows. Azura's quarters. Azur stared at the wall, arms crossed, breathing deeply. Her father's voice had been loud, angry. You are a warborn daughter of the warlord, not a lover to a lesser species. Azura didn't reply. She didn't argue, but her heart was heavy. They had threatened to remove her command, remove her voice. Unless she stepped away from the human, unless she acted like Kyle meant nothing. Later that night, secret message. Kyle was in his room when the hidden message came through. No name. No signal trace. Just glowing text. Meet me at the old Comes Tower. Midnight. Come alone. Kyle suited up. Old Comes Tower. Midnight. The tower was abandoned, rusted, barely holding power. Kyle moved quietly, eyes sharp. He expected a trap. Or worse. But then he saw her. Azar. She stood alone under the broken antenna, her silver armor reflecting the moonlight. He stepped forward. Why did you disappear? Her voice was low. They made me. Kyle didn't ask who. He already knew. Azura looked up, eyes softer now. They said I was a danger to peace. You are, Kyle said. To their idea of it, she smiled faintly. I didn't come to argue. Then why? To warn you, she said. Someone is watching us. Someone wants our bond to break. Or burn. Who? Azura stepped closer. I don't know yet. But they're inside your command and mine. Kyle's eyes narrowed. Then we're targets? Not yet. But we will be if we don't act smart. Kyle reached for her hand. She let him take it this time. I don't care who's watching, he said. I only care what you want. Azura looked up at him. And whispered, then kiss me now while no one can stop it. And he did, right there under the shattered tower. A human. An alien. Soldiers. Enemies. Lovers. Their bond born in fire was now sealed in silence, but in the shadows. Another drone hovered. Recording. Transmitting. And far away, deep inside the moon base, someone smiled again. Perfect. Let them love. Let them rebel. The mysterious figure turned to their assistant. Then, when the war begins again, we'll use that love to destroy them both. Asterisk. The next morning, Kyle was pulled from his sleep by the blaring sound of a base alert. Level 4 security breach. Unauthorized transmission detected. Report to command immediately. Kyle's heart sank. He had a bad feeling, and it started last night right after the kiss. Earth. Alliance Command, briefing room. Commander Rivas stood at the head of the table. Eyes cold. Kyle stood in front of him, surrounded by 3 armed guards. You want to tell me what you were doing at the abandoned Comes Tower at midnight? Rivas asked. Kyle didn't blink. Receiving a message from Lieutenant Azura. You mean the Zarelian soldier you're not supposed to be contacting? Kyle stayed silent. Rivas continued. There's footage. You two weren't talking. You were touching, kissing. Still, Kyle said nothing. Rivas took a step closer. Do you understand what kind of scandal this creates? You're a human soldier. She's an alien officer from a high-ranking war family. Our peace treaty is fragile. This kind of emotional entanglement could set everything on fire. Kyle looked him straight in the eye. Then maybe it needs to burn. The room went silent. The guards stiffened, but Rivas only sighed. You're lucky I'm not court-martialing you. Yet. For now, you're grounded. No missions. No contact with Xerelians. One step out of line and you're off this planet. Kyle was escorted out without another word. Meanwhile, Xerelian Sector Azura sat before her father. High Warlord TZHR. His golden armor gleamed, and his voice roared like thunder. You disobeyed orders. You kissed the human. And now your name is on every war network across 3 systems. Azura didn't flinch. The war ended. You signed peace. Peace is not love, her father shouted. You are a warrior, not a bride to a primitive. I am both, she said calmly. Her father turned away. Then you are nothing. You are stripped of your command, your weapons, your status. Azura's jaw tightened, but she held her head high. I still have my pride, and I still have him. Her. Father pointed to the door. Then go. Be with your human. But never come back. The same night, Kyle's room, a soft knock came. Kyle opened the door, expecting another guard, but it was Azura. She wore a dark cloak, her face tense but eyes bright. Kyle pulled her inside quickly. What are you doing here? You're being watched. So are you, she whispered. We don't have much time. He closed the door. What happened? She looked him in the eyes. They stripped me of everything. My command. My name. All for one kiss. Kyle stepped closer. Then? We're both in the same boat. She nodded. But I don't regret it. He smiled. Neither do I. But the moment was short. Azura turned serious again. There's more. I found something. She pulled a small glowing cube from under her cloak. This was in the base. Drone logs, hidden deep in restricted files. Kyle activated the cube. A 3D hologram appeared. It showed someone from the shadows, a masked figure, human voice distorted. Keep feeding the hate. Let the Xerelians and Earthlings grow close. Then rip them apart. The peace must fail. The war must return. Our profits depend on it. Kyle's eyes narrowed. Who is that? Azura shook her head. I don't know. But it proves everything. Someone is orchestrating this, using our relationship as a tool to trigger another war. Kyle stared at the cube. This is bigger than us. Yes, she said, but only we can stop it. Suddenly, bam, an explosion rocked the hallway outside. Smoke filled the room. Kyle grabbed Azura and pulled her to the ground just as the wall burst open. Armed soldiers stormed in, both human and Xerelian. Step away from each other. One of them shouted, On the floor, hands behind your heads. Azura growled. This isn't arrest. This is elimination. Kyle scanned the wall and grabbed a broken pipe. Run, he whispered. No, she said, but it was too late. The soldiers rushed forward. Kyle fought the first with a punch and blocked a stun baton. Azura rolled under a strike and kicked a soldier's leg, making him crash into another, but there were too many. Blinding flash lit up the room and everything went black. Hours later, unknown location, Kyle woke up chained to a metal chair. His head throbbed. Across the small cell, Azura sat tied the same way. Her face was bruised, but her eyes were full of fire. Kyle, you awake? He groaned. Yeah, where are we? She looked at the dark walls. Deep underground. Military. Black site, maybe. No signals. No light. No escape. Then a door opened. The masked figure from the hologram stepped in. Clapping. Double quotes. Well done, the voice said. You two played your roles perfectly. Now the galaxy will fall into chaos again and will rise from the ashes. Kyle struggled against his chains. You won't get away with this. Oh, I already have, the figure said. But? Don't worry. Before I erase you both, I'll let you say goodbye. Then the door slammed shut, leaving only silence and a countdown. To war. The room was silent, cold, made of dark metal and glowing red lines along the walls. Kyle sat chained to one chair, Azura to another, both bloody but not broken. No windows. No guards, just a heavy steel door and a hum of power under their feet. Kyle turned his head slowly. You okay? Azura nodded, though a bruise showed on her cheek. Better than I should be. Worse than I deserve. Kyle smiled slightly. Still arrogant, I see. Azura looked over at him, her voice soft. Still biting people? They both laughed just a little, but the silence after felt heavier. We're going to die here, aren't we? Azura asked. Kyle looked around. The room, not today. Meanwhile, secret control room, the masked figure stood behind a large glowing console. Dozens of red dots blinked across a galactic map. A human voice spoke from behind the mask. Activate the signal. Broadcast the leaked affair. That'll light the flame. A Zarelian soldier beside him nodded. Once the galaxy sees the bond between our races corrupted, they'll turn on each other. And the peace treaty will collapse, the masked figure said, as planned. Inside the cell, Kyle leaned forward against his chains. These cuffs, not Zarelian, they're old Earth tech. Azura studied her own, but recharged with alien energy, a hybrid prison. He looked up. Good, I know the weakness. He moved slightly, pulling his wrists hard and shifting his weight. The left bolt in this kind of chair is pressure sensitive. If I rock just right, snap, his left hand came free. Azura blinked. You could have mentioned that sooner. Kyle smirked. Was enjoying the company. He reached over, broke the lock on her cuffs, and helped her stand. She wobbled slightly, but her hand found his shoulder. Where to now? She asked. Kyle pointed upward. Wherever they don't want us to go. Escape through the vents. The two crawled through tight metal tunnels, guided only by the flicker of distant sparks. Kyle led the way, using his fist to break weak sections. Azura followed close behind. They passed over a control room and stopped below. They saw the masked figure and a large monitor displaying their kiss replayed in slow motion. Azura's eyes widened. They're using us to trigger war. Kyle whispered. They're broadcasting it galaxy-wide, making it look like betrayal, like you're a spy. And I'm a traitor. Azura's jaw tightened. We stop this now. Kyle scanned the room. See that box near the corner? That's the relay core. I destroy it, she said. You go for the mask. Kyle nodded. Ready? Always. The fall they dropped. Through the ceiling like lightning, Azura rolled and slammed her heel into the relay core crack. Sparks flew. Kyle tackled the masked figure, slamming them into the wall. The mask cracked, but before he could rip it off, guards rushed in. Smoke bombs exploded, screams, stun blasts. Azura shouted, Kyle! He turned and a shock dart hit his chest. He collapsed. Darkness. Unknown. Time. Darkness again. Kyle opened his eyes. He was lying on a smooth floor. No chains. No guards. Azura knelt beside him. You're awake, she said. Barely. They were in a different room now. Larger. A wide glass wall showed the stars. Somewhere deep in space. And then the door opened. The masked figure stepped inside. But now the mask was removed, and Kyle's heart froze. It was Commander Rivas. Azura's eyes narrowed. You? He nodded. Of course. Who else could control both sides? Who else could keep peace long enough to make war profitable again? Kyle stood slowly. You lied to everyone. No, Rivas said. I gave them what they really wanted. Fear, drama, division, and now, chaos. Azura took a step forward. What happens to us? You die, Rivas said simply. Quietly. No one will know. They'll think you betrayed your people and each other. Kyle clenched his fists. But before anyone could move, boom. An explosion rocked the station. Sirens screamed. Lights flickered. Red. A voice echoed across the speakers. External breach. Incoming ship. Weapons hot, Rivas shouted. Who dares? A second voice came from the hallway. This is Captain Dre of the Human-Zerelian Alliance Patrol. We tracked your signal. Surrender now. Rivas cursed and ran. Kyle turned to Azura. Our friends found us. Azura smirked. Let's make sure we're alive when they get here. Together, they grabbed weapons from the wall and chased after Rivas side by side. Wounded but burning with fire. Their love had been used as a weapon. Now it would become a shield. Asterisk. The hallway shook again as another blast echoed through the metal station. Lights flickered, alarms screamed, and smoke filled the corridors. Kyle sprinted beside Azura, both gripping stolen plasma rifles. They'll seal the control room, Azura warned. Then we break in before they do, Kyle growled. Their boots pounded against the cold floor as they turned corners, climbing up a scorched stairwell. Behind them, the sound of battle Zerelian and Human Alliance forces had boarded. The rescue was real, but Commander Rivas was still ahead of them. Still dangerous, still alive. Command deck. Minutes later, Rivas barked orders at his few remaining loyal soldiers. Hold the door, purge all files, delete the footage. But sir, do it, he screamed, slamming his fist on the control panel. We still have leverage. If we can frame them one more time. Boom. The doors exploded inward. Smoke. Sparks. Shadows. And then Kyle and Azura stepped through the cloud. Weapons raised. Eyes locked on the man who betrayed them both. Rivas froze. Kyle, he said, raising a hand, think about what you're doing. I am, Kyle said coldly. You don't understand. No, you don't, Azura interrupted. You tried to turn us into weapons, but all you did was make us stronger. Rivas laughed bitterly. Stronger? Look at you. An alien disgrace and a human outlaw. The galaxy will never accept your bond. Kyle lowered his gun slightly, then stepped forward. He looked Rivas in the eyes and did something no one expected. He leaned forward and bit him right on the shoulder. Hard. Rivas screamed and stumbled back, dropping his weapon. Azura fired not to kill, but to knock out the remaining guards. Then she stepped beside Kyle, eyes wide. You bit him? Kyle nodded. Had to end? This the way it started. Azura smiled. I approve. They cuffed Rivas, dragged him to the center of the room, and linked the ship's core to the rescue fleet. Hey Zerelian. Captain's voice came through the speaker. Commander Rivas is in custody. Conspiracy exposed. Peace treaty intact. Send medical teams to retrieve the targets. Kyle and Azura looked at each other. Alive. Together. Free. 1 week later, Peace Council meeting on the capital station orbiting Earth. The Grand Chamber of the Intergalactic Peace Council was filled with delegates, human and alien alike. Screens showed evidence from Rivas's hidden transmissions. Footage of blackmail, war manipulation, lies, but also footage of 2 warriors, 1 human, 1 Zerelian fighting side by side. The final image on the screen was simple. Kyle holding Azura's hand as they walked away from the destroyed station. A human admiral stood and spoke. We once feared that love between species could bring chaos, but it seems it brought the truth instead. A Zerelian elder added, let them be judged not as rule breakers, but as truth bringers. The vote was unanimous. Kyle and Azura were pardoned. The peace treaty was made stronger. And something new was born. Later, quiet Garden Dome Kyle sat on a bench beside a small glowing lake. The stars shone through the glass dome above. Azura approached, wearing a long silver cloak. She sat beside him silently. "You really bit him?" she asked again. He nodded. "Didn't have a choice. You started all this with a bite. And ended it with one," Kyle finished. She turned to him. "What now?" He took her hand. "Now we stop running." Azura leaned against his shoulder. "And maybe we start building." He looked down at her. "Together?" She looked up at him, eyes glowing soft violet. "Yes." They sat there in silence, hearts calm for the first time in a long while. But then Azura turned her head slightly. "You know, you still owe me something." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "What?" She smirked. "Another bite. Just to make sure." He smiled, leaned closer, and she didn't stop him this time. Months had passed since the conspiracy was exposed. Peace between the humans and the Xerelians had not only survived, it had grown stronger. Joint patrols now flew through star systems once full of fear. Shared science programs were underway. Trade lines had opened. And at the heart of it all were Kyle Merrick and Lieutenant Azar Adatu, warriors who were never meant to meet. Two hearts that changed a galaxy. Earth-Zarelin. Alliance Academy. Day of ceremony. Crowds filled the wide-open courtyard. Students, officers, diplomats, and soldiers from both species stood waiting as banners waved above them. One human. One Zarelin. At the front stage stood two new statues. One of Kyle, gripping his staff. The other Azura, tail curled proudly. Behind her, a loudspeaker echoed through the air. "Today we honor not just heroes of war, but guardians of peace. Two who defied rules and taught us a new way." Kyle stood beside the podium in a formal dark blue uniform. Azura wore her battle cloak, now marked with a golden symbol, the emblem of unity. They exchanged a look. A silent message passed between them. "We made it." After the ceremony, away from the noise and celebration, Kyle and Azura walked alone through the Academy's private gardens. Kyle looked around. "Never thought I'd be famous for biting someone." Azura smiled. "Twice, actually. Let's not forget Rivas." "Yeah, I might have started a trend," she laughed. "Xerelians now see biting as a possible sign of honor." "My people are very confused," Kyle chuckled. "You're welcome." She stopped walking and turned serious. "We're being asked to lead the next step." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "What kind of step?" "They want us to become ambassadors, travel across the galaxy, speak to other species, teach them what we've learned." Kyle looked away. "You think we're ready for that?" Azura took his hand. "We faced betrayal, prison, death, and each other. I think we're ready for anything." He looked into her eyes. "You sure you want to do this? With me?" She stepped even closer. "There's no one else I'd trust the stars with." Kyle's voice dropped. "Then it's a deal." She smiled. "Good, because I already told them yes." The spaceport. 1 week later, a new ship stood gleaming on the launch pad, painted with two united symbols, the Earth crest and the Xerelian flame. Its name, in glowing blue, the bonfire inside. Kyle and Azura walked side by side through the VI bridge, greeted by a mixed crew, human engineers, Xerelian pilots, and even one peaceful alien from a third race. Kyle took the captain's seat, but not alone. Azura sat beside him in her own command chair. "Course set?" he asked. Azura tapped the controls. "First stop, the Kalari system. They've refused peace offers for years." Kyle cracked his knuckles. "Time to change their mind." Azura smirked. "Let's show them what happens when a human and a Xerelian work together." Kyle gave a nod. Engage. The ship lifted off. As stars streaked across the window. Kyle reached out. Azura took his hand without hesitation. Later, personal. Quarters that night, under soft lights, the two sat together on a small couch beside the viewing window. Silence. Comfort. Peace. Kyle finally asked, "Do you ever think about how this all started?" Azura grinned. "Yes, I poked you, and you bit me." He laughed. "Hard to believe that turned into this." She looked at him. "Would you change anything?" Kyle thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No, not one thing." Azura nodded slowly. "Neither would I." They leaned into each other. The stars watched them from every angle. And somewhere, across the galaxy, their story was already becoming legend. 1 year later, across the galaxy, young soldiers told the story of the human who bit the alien princess. Children acted it out on training grounds. Poets wrote songs. Artists made paintings. Even diplomats used the phrase, "Bite back with love." And the two lovers who started it all? They were still out there. Flying together, changing the galaxy, one mission at a time.